Hey everybody, Derek Cyphers here, founder of the Grand Prix Tour. I'm excited to bring to you today our second driver spotlight, this time on Kevin Sandiego. Our GPT advisor Chad sat down with Kevin this past weekend, and I hope you enjoy their discussion.
My name's Kevin San Diego. I live in California, Northern California, just north of San Francisco, about 20 minutes, about 15 minutes away from Sonoma Raceway. It's my local track. I've been sim racing since 2020. As with lots of other people, we got bored in COVID, tried to find something fun to do, and sim racing was the outlet.
So, did you do it to sort of stay in shape as a lot of real life racers were doing during the pandemic? Was that what brought you to it, or was it just the I need the hit? I'm going through withdrawal. What was the real impetus to join?
I mean, that was definitely part of it, working from home all of a sudden, not even commuting to the office, not driving that much. It was just odd. And so I needed an outlet and not being able to get out and do endurance racing. They shut down all the tracks and everything. It wasn't until like 12 months later that we actually got back to the track. Um, I was able to find an outlet in sim racing, find a bunch of cool people online, different communities, different leagues.
So I'll ask you the Jack Nicklaus question. If you had one last race in your life, what track would it be on, and what car would it be?
Either Road Atlanta or Laguna Seca, either one of those. I love racing both of those tracks. They're so fun. And honestly, it would be a Spec Miata Cup race.
So I didn't know that you joined in 2000. So 1350 I rating to 6K I rating in a span of 3.5, 4 years. Talk to us a little bit about how you got there. Do you think that reflects your potential? Do you see upside? Is that kind of you happy with where you sit? Just talk to us a little bit about your status as an iRacer.
Yeah, I think the first year I maybe made it 1,000 IR rating, something like that. And when you're first starting out, you don't really understand how to set up your gear to basically get the best feeling out of it. And I started off in VR, and VR is really cool, but I just I had so many races that I ended up getting disconnected or had some VR related issue or something technology related that was causing me a problem, and so that was holding me back. I was using at the time some VR goggles from Meta, the Oculus Rift S, and there's just not a lot of uh, peripheral vision available. And so you've got basically 110 degrees where you can look forward, and it's really hard to race side by side when you're with that type of limited field of view. I mean, your normal field of view is over 200 degrees. I mean, you can see things that are behind your ears type of thing. And that makes it really tough to race and race competitively when you're next to somebody. So switching from VR over to monitors actually made a big difference for me. And so I was able to jump up quite a bit just by being able to survive the races. And so that made a huge difference. And then, slowly over time, just upgrading gear, trying to get on better equipment. I went to a semi cube probably about 6 months after I started, and then, bought some better pedals and bought some other bits and pieces here and there. And so I'm pretty happy with my setup now. I think the limitation is really my skill set. Right.
So, quick question for you related to just both your equipment, your iRacing experience. If you could give, looking back now on your 4 years, a piece of advice or two to anybody who was an inspiring 6K driver, what would you say? Like, what's the most important thing you've learned in that journey?
I think the most important thing is get your field of view right first. Being able to see appropriately on track, just as in the real world, is the most important thing. And being able to associate where your car is, virtually on the track is really important. And if you don't have that right sort of vision set up, it's really hard to gauge where you are. It's really hard to race side by side with somebody. It's really hard to be consistent when it comes to being able to brake in the right place and that sort of thing. So that was a big one for me. And then obviously steering feel. I'm a big proponent of getting things to feel like they should in real life. And I think, getting that to the point where it feels like a real car, where you can, feel the edge of adhesion when you're, getting into some understeer, that sort of thing, it definitely helps. There's certainly some things in the sim that aren't replicated well. I mean, in a real car, if you jump into ABS on the front axle, you definitely feel it through the steering wheel. You don't feel that in the sim, unfortunately.
All right, let's talk a little bit about the Grand Prix Tour in our remaining time here. Tell us how you found out about the league. I mean, you've obviously had good success early on joining us mid-season with 3 wins. So talk to us a little bit about how you found the league and how your experience has been so far, in particular, getting to three podium wins.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Derek invited me after a PCA race. We were just chatting on Discord, and he mentioned, "Hey, I'm starting up this separate league. There's a bunch of PCA racers on there looking for clean drivers, that sort of thing." So that's how I got introduced to it. I hadn't heard of it elsewhere, but I see that there's some people in the league that I've raced against online before, and I'm hoping that the league has a decent turnout per race, but I'm hoping as it grows, we start to get those really full field. That's what I really enjoy is.
So you said that early on you did a lot of league racing. In fact, it's been a while since you've done public racing. How would you compare the experience in GPT versus other leagues you've tried? Are there any noticeable differences that make it appealing to you, or is there anything that you would change based on your experience in some of the other leagues?
I mean, the Grand Prix Tour has higher skill driving. I think other leagues you definitely have a broader mix. I've raced North American Racing League. That's usually pretty competitive because it's a money league, and so you're racing for cash, and that's quite fun. But it's also a little bit stressful. Some of the rule changes and things that they do, and the fact that you have the ability to change cars every week, it really makes for having to do a ton of testing to be fast on whatever that track configuration is that week. So those types of leagues are fun. I've raced fun leagues like Apex This. It's a group out of Texas and a bunch of HPDE racers out there and racers that set up a league and really fun group of guys. I raced with them for a bunch of seasons, won a few of their seasons, and had a really good time there. But I was looking for something a little bit more serious, and I went to North American Racing League, and I did a little bit of Precision Racing League, a few seasons with them. Also, really good crew. But I was just looking for something different. It's always fun to race against new people, find other people that are fast in different types of cars, and so I don't really focus on one discipline. I'll race open wheel, I'll race Miatas, I'll race anything. It's really fun for me just to get on track. That feeling when you podium, it sticks with you for a couple of days. You're happy when you won a tough race.
So are you still on your sweaty Silverstone high from the last victory, or is that one worn off yet?
I don't know how I came out on top on that one. I'm not sure exactly what happened there. People that went out late on the qualifying when it was drying a little bit, they definitely had an advantage. I always, as soon as the button, turns green to go qualify, I hit the button and I'm in qualifying. So I'm usually the first one out there after practice. And so I did that. And looking back, I was like, oh, the track was drying. I should have thought about that. And the people that went out in the latter half of qualifying, got their 3 laps in, did much better. So I think I qualified P7. And I was like, it's not really where I like to be, especially in a rain race. You want to be up front where you can actually see, but it worked out well. I was able to make some moves early on and get towards the front and get out of the spray. So
There are 3 races left in the season. What is your, I don't want to say expectations, but what's your game plan? What's your hope for the final season? I think you're in P5 right now in the standings. Where do you think you'll be at the end of the season?
I think from a points perspective, I don't really have a shot. I have to make up like, I don't know, 50 or 60 points, and I think there's only 2 races left, if I'm not mistaken. Is it 3? Okay.
Yeah, I think there's.
Um, Yeah, I think it's going to be tough unless there's drop races or something like that. I think I'm at maybe 140 points, and the leaders are at 200 in that range. So I might be able to podium, but that assumes that I get really good finishes the last 3 races.
If you could describe your style as a racer, so as people come up next to you on track, what should they expect? Like, what kind of a racer would you describe yourself as? And then if you think about preparing for a race
Mhm.
with that style in mind, so what's your plan or what's your strategy for getting ready for a race?
I mean, I like to think myself as a pretty fair driver. I'm not one that's crashing people out left and right. And so I try to race as cleanly as possible. And I really hope that other people do the same. And so, I'm going to race you hard. I'm going to try to force you into a mistake. And that means, forcing you to brake late, forcing you to try and move, into an odd line that you hadn't tried before on that track. And so I'm going to be playing chess with you and try to figure out how to get you off your game so that I can get by. I tend to run probably a bit harder than I should, and so I'm pretty tough on the tires. And there's no difference to me between qualifying and racing. I run just as hard in qualifying as I do in racing, and that is possibly a detriment as well because I kill the tires pretty good. But these 40-60 minute races, not that big of a deal. I can usually make the tires last. At Silverstone, even in the wet, I think there was an advantage to take tires. I didn't take tires. I tried to baby him the last few laps there, and it almost did not work out. So, definitely it makes it tough, my driving style, because I'm pushing all the time. I'm always trying to get those purple sectors, the purple laps, and even if I'm ahead, I'm still pushing. I don't know what's wrong with me. There's something screw loose in that regard. I could pull it back, but when I pull it back, you start to have those mental gaps. You start thinking about other things, and I start looking at my other monitor, looking what other people are doing on track, and I miss my breaking point. And so it's better for me to just hammer it, hammer it, hammer it all the time, and just go as fast as I can. And so that's really my style. And if I'm racing against you, expect me to push you, expect me to try and get close, try to force a mistake. But I'm not going to tap to pass. I mean, that's not really my style at all. I really want to race people and beat them on track, basically. So that's the way I try to approach things, and I hope others do the same.
Well, I can see why Derek reached out to you for GPT, because that in many ways is the philosophy of the league, which is race hard, race fast, race clean, race close. At the end of the day, it's about the quality of the racing.
All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that conversation between Kevin and Chad. Big thanks to both of them for taking time in their weekend to do that. They had a really good discussion, so much more than I could fit into this video. So maybe we can bring more of that content to you guys in the future. But otherwise, we will see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.